Hey guys, I'm Milla, and a year ago my dad and I decided to buy an old caravan and renovate it. It has taken many hours and a lot of hard and filthy work to get it to the state that it is today. This video is the first video in my series and called quite cleverly Demolishing of the Van. I know, no need for the applause, right? Dad searched the internet for the van we purchased. It was $250 and we had no idea what brand or anything about it was. But after a bit of research, it turned out to be a very rare Country Club Caravan from we think 1959. It was being used as a chicken coop and was filled with so much chook and rat poo it wasn't funny. Not funny in the slightest. We carried out 3 wheelbarrow loads of the stuff before we could even see the floor. We did some research and found out that it was pretty much the only one still standing in Australia to our knowledge so far. One of our very first steps was cleaning the inside out. Today's job is to outline and trace the Country Club sign, and we're going to trace it and make sure that we get the exact sign, and then Dad's going to recreate the lining on the side of the caravan, and I'm going to help him with that later. We found out the van actually had fiberglass side stripes similar in style to the cars getting around at the time, but of course they were no longer there, but we could see their faint outline, so we taped an outline and then further spray painted it to match the old original design of the Country Club van. We then peeled away the tape to reveal our painted template. This took a few tries to get correct, hence why throughout the video you may see black spray paint in place over the red. Dad then got one of his friends to make a buck, which is what a fiberglass professional needs to reproduce the stripes. Dad and I then started to remove all of the cupboards and cupboard doors. Removing all of the cupboards attached to the roof turned out to be quite a pain in the We numbered all of the cupboard doors so that when it was time to put them back, we knew exactly where they needed to go. Our next step was to pull down the inside of the roof. While doing this, I was absolutely certain that something was going to jump out of me. And it did. A bat flew out straight at my head. I screamed, dropped the roof, and leapt out of the van. Dad dropped the roof and thought there was a huntsman on his back. Looking back on our situation, we burst out laughing and I was spewing because I didn't get it on video. The next step was the biggest step, as we are now after taking all of the walls off the van. This involved a lot of undoing of flathead mongrel screws that were full of paint and other crud that had been rotted into the wood. Ugh. And I can tell you right now that I did not enjoy it, not 1 second. My sister came to join in the fun. Not. While my sister and I were away at work, my dad started to detach the roof from the walls. We removed the roof structure of the van as we are keeping it for a template for the new van, so we didn't need to be gentle, we just had to keep it in one piece. So we put it to the side until we needed it later on. It doesn't look as heavy as what it was though. Unfortunately, I found out the hard way and my pigeon arms couldn't hold the weight of the roof and down I went. Dad rushing to the scene, instead of helping me, he laughed, but we did manage to put it aside for later use. We had continued to start removing the walls. Dad started by removing the most damaged piece of wall that had been broken away, while I worked on removing the windows. Then Dad forgot where the camera was placed.
Oh, did I? Ah, sorry. Sorry about that. Telephono.
Dad then moved onto the front fiberglass wall, while I continued to remove the rest of the windows in the van. At first, I thought, I was going to be fine with the windows. But no.
could have asked me for help.
I didn't need help. I was just trying to undo it. It just popped out. Anyway, we knuckled down to work after you know what and continued to remove windows and detach the front from the rest of the van until finally the front comes off. The front and the back were kind of hard to detach as they curved underneath the floor and were kind of a part of the floor. Our next wall needed to be dealt with very delicately as we need to use the entire wall as a template. Just like earlier, we need to undo all of the cruddy flat-headed screws that gave me nightmares for weeks. And then my phone died, so I had to swap to my dad's phone. Unfortunately, we didn't get the wall coming off on video, but when it did come off, it just laid on the ground, and thank God it came off in one piece because that was one of our biggest concerns. Over the last week, we have had a few storms, and when we last left our van, it looked like this. But now it looks like this. Right here, this is fiberglass, and it has actually been like ripped or cut, so we are going to have to fix this because it's a very important part of the van. And as you can see over here, right there is the cupboard that sits up here, and it's just been totally blown off because it was barely attached, and the wall behind it, which is this bit here, has just fallen off pretty much. So yeah, my dad's and I aim for today is to pretty much take the entire van down to the chassis and clean up, and I think we might be moving it down to the shed, but we'll have to see. Yeah. We removed the wardrobe first as it was hanging on by the flame and paint. We then moved on to detaching the kitchen cabinets from the floor before doing a lot, and I mean a lot, of cleaning up. We then moved on to disassembling the rear fiberglass panel from the van. There was a lot of rotten wood within this van, so we had to remove it all from the frame. After a good couple of hours of hard work, we had pulled everything down to where it was just the floor. Then, my sister and I removed the thingos that go over the wheels. Dad says that they were wheel arches, so at least someone knows what they're talking about. But my sister struggled, so I had to go help her. Yay. Our last job was to rip up the floor. The floor was actually bolted into the chassis, and we weren't able to unscrew it. So we had to literally drill the heads of the bolts, or whatever the heck they were called. This took a while. The floor was split into 3 sections, the back, middle, and front. We pulled the sections off one at a time. Finally, we had ripped up all of the flooring and the van was down to just the chassis. The chassis was actually in amazing condition. It was just covered in rust. Dad thinks it may have been galvanized originally. That's the part where most of you are going to click off. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. It did take a lot of work, and I'm so happy with all of the work that we got done. There are a few shocking obstacles. yeah, we don't talk about them. Make sure to go like and subscribe and click the notification bell down below so that when I upload part 2 you will be notified, because I can assure you that part 2 won't be uploaded for a while as there's a lot to do in between now and then.